In 1959, at Street's Grocery in Whitefish, Montana's special spice was born. Alpine Touch. It's the taste you grew up with, well seasoned through the test of time, as the tradition carries from one Montana generation to the next. From its humble beginnings to a trusted brand, here's to the next 60 years. Alpine Touch. Montana's special spice since 1959.
My first opportunity to be part of Cat-Griz is extremely exciting, and with our win last week, hard fought victory over Idaho. It's really positioned us well to do a lot of things we aim to do this year, and it's all resting on one game here as we finish out the regular season. So pleased with our team's resiliency on Saturday. Looking at the film, I don't think it looked much different than it probably felt as I was in here on Saturday afternoon. We allowed Idaho just an opportunity to hang around, and credit to them. They did some things, made some plays before the half, certainly to get on the board, and made it hard. And fortunately, we were able to put together that sequence again where we went special teams and the defense to offense to take the lead and close out a game that we needed to. And at the end of it, that's all that counts is whether you get the win or not. We were able to do that and get to 9-1. So looking forward to this week. Our guys are really excited, and it's good that we're within this week. There's no looking ahead. There's no looking back. We're in this week here with a lot to play for. So I'll open up for questions.
Any updates on the three guys who got hurt?
TJ will likely be out for a few weeks. We'll see. He won't be able to suit up this week, and how serious it will be, I think we'll find out in the weeks to come. Otherwise, we're hopeful. We're sitting here on Monday, so the day-to-day aspect, I think, would be the way I'd classify any of the other guys.
What is kind of the emotion right now for you as a coach, and what have you learned about, I guess, the rivalry, talking to some of the players about this week?
Well, it obviously runs deep, not only with our Montana kids, but our entire team, and that's what you want. I mean, you want to be at programs that have rivalries like this, and I haven't been a part of one yet, one of these games, but I would suspect that it's right up there with any rivalry in the country. There's great rivalries at all levels, and this is one of the top ones in the country. There's no doubt about it. And in states like Montana, where our university and theirs are at the top, that shines such a different light than so many of the other states across our country. And that's when it is an in-state deal. It's not cross-state boundaries, and there's so many Montana kids on both sides. It just it brings that level of intensity to a place that a lot of rivalries don't see. And I know going around to a lot of our communities across the state this spring, it's the first thing they want to mention. I know that, and I get it. Each one of those communities, there's a divide, and you want to be on the right side of that matchup every year. So looking forward to it. It's why, as a competitor, these are the games that you want to be a part of.
A lot of people talk about how you don't understand this rivalry until you're in it. How have you gone about learning about the rivalry, and what are some things that you have learned in your time here?
Well, I think you try to study history. I guess the ebbs and flows of how it's gone. Certainly talking to former players, former coaches who have been a part of it over a long, long time. This isn't just something that's popped up the last 10, 20 years. It's going on for a long, long time. And there's so much history, and well aware of that. And I suspect that all along there would be some other things on the line as well. So to sit here the last regular season of the game of the season, and we have the Great Divide Trophy on the line, but then a conference championship, certainly seeding in the playoffs is all in front of us as well. It's right where we want to be.
Tucker and Troy kind of talked about your response to rivalry games during the hiring process. Do you remember what you told them?
Well, I'm certain that it was first and foremost, as far as the goals, I hope that all these things would line up on one Saturday, but this would be first and foremost because it's not just this one Saturday in November. It's an everyday of the year affair when you talk about recruiting and all that goes into trying to gain the edge across the state, in every corner, in every small town, and every big town. You want to have that edge, and it ultimately plays out on a Saturday, but it is something that occurs in our minds every day.
What would you say? How would you describe Montana schematically, personnel-wise?
They're playing really good football right now. I'll start with their defense. They're a very aggressive defense, very much an attack style. They have a couple guys in O'Connell and Lewis that are Buchanan watch list guys, and it's well deserved. Robbie Houck is all over the place. I think he's got 100+ tackles right now, and he is literally all over the place where he aligns. And then Ford has all those interceptions. I think it's 8 games straight now. So they're finding a way to disrupt, tackle well, and then turn people over. And those are things that we're going to have to contend with. I know offensively they've been through a lot of personnel. Whether they're back to being settled in, I'm not sure. But I think whether it's been Humphrey or Brown at quarterback, they've both been able to run their offense, and they're not so different that their offense has to change a whole lot. They've played a host of young running backs, and that seems like they're getting healthier at that position. I know they got a few different targets, receivers, and tight end emerging. So, balanced. I think they'd like to be on offense, and then defensively stop the run and get after the passer. So I think a lot of the things that we'd like to say, and they do it differently, but a lot of things that we'd like to say about the makeup of our team. And then, you look at special teams wise. In Flowers, they have as dangerous a returner, I think, as there is in our conference. So a lot to contend with. They got a very experienced staff, and it's going to be great competition.
Those linebackers, can anything specifically about them that stands out? Those two.
Well, they do a lot with them. It's a combination of kind of the sideline play, but then blitzing and getting after the passer. The structure of their defense being a 3-3 structure, those guys often are pass rushers, and they do a very good job of that. But then just being able to stop the run, and it's really such a I think a sideline to sideline effect that their defense has. They're doing an awesome job of disrupting. I know that's the biggest thing I would say from a linebacking crew perspective.
You mentioned after Saturday's game that you not only didn't pass for many yards, but wanted to pass more. It felt like you should have had more attempts. What was kind of the reason, I guess, that it was so few? Well,
I think one thing, Idaho shortened the game possession-wise, and we did a little bit of that to ourselves with a couple 3-and-outs. But I think the opportunity and the landscape of the game kind of changed in the second half without Isaiah. I think we played Tommy a little bit more in response to that. I think we've said it all along. Tommy is one of the best guys on our team with the ball in his hands, and having him out there allowed for that a little bit more. And not to say that he couldn't have thrown a few more times, but it's just kind of the way the game played out. And I think it's easy to come in here after the game and look at some numbers and say, geez, I wish we were more balanced than we were. And that was kind of my initial response. And I think, in hindsight, it was, some credit to Idaho for, making those possessions so valuable. And then we just didn't take advantage of a couple opportunities and had some 3-and-outs that didn't allow for those plays to maybe develop as those drives would have went along.
Coach, would you be able to elaborate at all on the types of injuries that Isaiah and
Well, TJ, I'm sure everybody saw. I mean, that was a pretty good blow he took to his lower leg, and beyond that, I don't want to say much. But it was pretty serious blow that he took. Unfortunate, given the situation. Isaiah's, it was more a soreness, for him than anything else. Elijah, I think the same thing. I hope we can work through those. They're obviously all leg injuries, and we, playing running back, that's part of the deal. And I think they're both on the mend, and we hope to have them both on Saturday.
In terms of preparing for a rivalry game, is there anything different that you do within the week leading up to that game, or no?
I don't know. I think you can certainly speak to the history. I think to have our guys have a good understanding of what the environment of that stadium is going to be like. I think that's pretty important, and that's pretty practical. So dealing with noise will be part of it. But I think just challenge them. I look at like our scout team. They're in week 12 of being on the scout team. I think you got to kind of re-engage them to, hey, we need it now. We need it now from here on out. It's a grind for those guys, and so I don't think from a practice and how we do things, you do a lot of things different. But I think you certainly shine some light on history, and I think I appreciate the fact that we have a lot of players on our team that have played in this game. They've had success in this game, or games, I should say. And I think those are the ones that I think are most important to tell about their experiences as we go through the week.
Do you feel like this adds pressure? This game brings pressure to the program, and do you think that's a good, bad thing? Could you describe what some of that pressure you think feels like?
Well, I think as a football program, you want to have you're going to be part of big games this time of year. So if pressure comes with that, that's welcome. High expectations are, I think, part of where we're at with this football program. That's okay. I think we want to be positioned to be playing in big games in November and then ultimately down the road. So, I think our guys have responded to big games in the past month a couple times going on the road, and this one's got a few more layers to it for sure. But it still comes down to what can we do once that clock gets going, between the whistles, between the white lines. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It doesn't, the talk around it, that's certainly for the fans, and I appreciate that. But our guys have to prepare to win a football game and appreciate the position we're in. Appreciate the fact that we need to uphold our side of this rivalry. Appreciate the fact that we win this game. We'll get at minimum a share of the Big Sky Conference Championship, and we win this game, I think we'll get a pretty good seed, and go out and play the best we can, and not worry about if we can't make plays. Figure out how we can.
Your predecessor, Coach Show, was kind of beloved for his record in this game. I'm curious if you face any sort of pressure because of that. With that said,
well, credit to Coach Chode and his ability to win the 4 games against the Griz, and it's a new chapter. It's important. It's important to me. I understand that, but there's been many coaches in this game, and it's really about our players and those guys winning the game. Those guys going out and doing everything they can, and us as coaches preparing them, putting them in the right decision, making adjustments within the game on Saturday. That's what it's really about. I knew coming here that there were expectations on a lot of different levels, and this was the first one I know that was mentioned. If not every day, almost every day since I've been here. So, look forward to it, and we just got to get our guys ready to go.
Playing Tommy as much as you did, how much do you consider or think about Matt's rhythm? Sitting on the sideline for those that make plays. Well,
like I said, I think the second half just it played out in such a fashion that Tommy became a priority runner in the second half, and we need to find a way to win a football game. And in a perfect world, you're not playing the shuffle like we did, but on that Saturday, that's the way it needed to play out. I think in the first game, that was part of the first plan. In the first half, that was part of the plan. I think Matt knew it going in. I think it wasn't a surprise to him, in particular to utilize Tommy in the red zone. So that kind of played out how we anticipated in the second half. We got thrown a curveball and did what we had to do, and fortunately it worked out for us.
Yeah, Matt took a pretty big hit there late in that game. Is he feeling well?
Yeah, I think Matt's fine. Yeah, he actually got hit into TJ at the beginning of that, or the end of the half too, and Matt came out of it in good shape.
We talked last week about the trap game potential and how real that was. Now that, with a close game like that, I'm sure people are saying, that happened and you guys looked ahead. What do you say to kind of that narrative?
You know what? Human nature is to relax or whatever, and I don't think we relaxed out there. There was just a handful of plays that we didn't execute, and was that because we relaxed? Or was that because Idaho made some plays? It was probably somewhere in between. We turned the ball over with an opportunity to go up 10-0, 14-0. The game maybe looks a little bit different. They don't get that sequence of the two big plays before the half to get the touchdown. At a minimum, it's 13-3. The game might look a little bit different, but it played out the way it did. And credit to Idaho. They had nothing to lose. They played hard. They got good players, and we weathered the storm, I guess. And I know there wasn't any talk about this game coming up last week, but we didn't play as well as we could have, and Idaho did some things, and that's the way I see it, which you could probably say is somewhere in between.
And one of the guys who had a good game for you was Amandre, and we talked about how much he's coming inside and maybe sacrificing some sack opportunities. How would you kind of describe just his, I don't know, maybe some of that sacrifice, his leadership, and just his play overall?
Yeah, he's played well, and I think in particular he's played well the last few games, and probably for him the last stretch, just getting a little bit more comfort with all the different ways that we're trying to utilize him. And Daniel certainly has bigger numbers and all that, but they all work together. When you play inside on those passing downs, you're not going to maybe get the same opportunities, but you're certainly contributing those opportunities. And I think Amandre understands that. For us to ultimately get done what we need to, where do you put me, Coach? I think that's been his mindset, and I've appreciated him as a playmaker, a leader, and I think he's been a great example to our team on how you should go about being a guy that just does whatever is called upon him, and to have a captain, and it's not even like he's accepting a lesser role; it's just a different role, And like I said, he's a part of all the, those pressures that we're getting. He just doesn't maybe get the notch in the sack column on a few of them.
Troy, I think he's a pretty well-known player, but I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think his, presence, or what do you think he'll be remembered for, maybe even beyond the football field?
Well, he's done so many different things here, and he's played linebacker during my time, but picturing this guy that was a running back and was a quarterback / linebacker, and is moved into the role he has currently on this team and is all over the field, and then he is a finalist for the Campbell Trophy, and that I think speaks to way more than just his football playing ability. And then I think every time he gets a chance to, whether it's deal with or communicate with fans, with you guys as the media, it's pretty pure. You just see a really good person that appreciates what's been given to him from a opportunity here, God-given talent, all those things, and then he's just done everything he could with it. Worked through a lot, coming off the injuries, I guess, that he's had, and putting together the season that he's had is a tribute to patience, hard work, trust, and a real devotion to this program. So he's going to be on a pretty short list of all-time greats in this program, and I'm just fortunate that we are as a staff that we've had a chance to work with him this past 10 months.
I think Lewis called him the face of the program, but he doesn't really seem to, I guess, even enjoy that sort of spotlight. Is that sort of mentality, I guess, affect the rest of the team? Like, is that a positive, maybe set leader by example there?
I think so. I think he makes it clear that it's about the team. He's going to deflect the accolades, the praise by and large, and I think when your best players do that, it makes it more and more about the team, and that's what football needs to be about. I know it's not always like that, and it's probably becoming less and less like that. So to have someone like that, care so much and represent so much of what you want to, it really just that example for our younger players, for players in years to come. Hey, if you want to know what it looks like, there it is.
And Casey, Tyson, and then Kendrick, who was that a while ago.
Casey, going back to, I can't remember what game it was. It was a home game. He ended up having a hand injury. It was his non-throwing hand. So he's on the mend yet. Not necessarily, an injury that'll take him through the calendar year, but it was fairly significant. Tyson Renjabal, he suffered injury back in the spring that he's still recovering from. In all likelihood, he'll be out for this whole year. And Kendrick, is that who you said?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kendrick's the closest of those three. I'm thinking back to when his last action, if it was second or third game. He's getting closer, but won't see him this week.
The Griz have been really stout against playing the run. And in that 3-3-5 scheme, it's a little bit different with their run fits. How would you describe how they've played the run this year and how you go about kind of attacking that?
Well, I'll come back to that word disruptive. It's disruptive, and then on top of it, it's going to look different play to play to play. A lot of teams structurally will look very similar one play to the next. Might have some subtle movements, but we'll just kind of play gap control football. And they're going to present their front different from one play to the next. Probably take some chances within that, but be very attacking. And it's they're trying to be the aggressor for sure when it comes to defending the run and even getting after the pass, I'd say too. My coaching history, it's not exactly like San Diego State has been, but San Diego State is they're in the ballpark of San Diego State. Rocky Long's now at New Mexico. It's disruptive, and I think as a lineman, you better be pretty disciplined about where you're going, who you're going to, be able to handle movements, quick movement, twists, slants, linebackers running right in your face. It's a combination of all those things. So, we have to be prepared with a pretty concise game plan. I think they're a team you can't try to do everything under the sun against. I know that. And I mentioned I think they play so well sideline to sideline. They really, I think, disrupt the perimeter game. So I think we're sitting here. It's game 11 for both of us. We have a good volume of what they've done to different teams, and I guess they got the same against us. So, it kind of comes down to who can be disciplined within the scheme versus scheme, and I think to some degree, the physical nature of us versus them and vice versa will certainly come into play.
Is there one memory, a comment somebody made during your time here that's kind of like, okay, that's what Cat-Griz rivalry means to this program, to this community?
Well, first off, I went through the goals, and this was the first goal, and social media put it out that we wanted to win a national championship, and right away I got, well, what about beating the Griz? So for some reason, social media didn't put all the goals on there, but that was the first one. So that was like day 2. And it wasn't just one person I heard it from. So, no, I think, it's it's neat when you talk to different players and coaches from different eras, and you study the history of just maybe when the Bobcats have had the upper hand, when the Griz have had the upper hand, why that's come about, where it's at right now. I mean, I think that's what's so neat. There's so much history to it, and I've probably just scratched the surface, I guess, as far as what I've learned.
What about some of the history of your rivalries within your football life? What are some of the ones that you've enjoyed, and what do you kind of take from those experiences?
Yeah, certainly the in-state rivalry in North Dakota that I grew up in. I grew up between Fargo and Grand Forks, so NDSU, UND was a big rivalry, and it's not maybe the same anymore, but really through my playing days at NDSU and my early coaching days, it was, and it was very heated. It had a lot of the same raw emotion that this one does, in all the small towns across the state of North Dakota. And being from a small town in between, closer to Grand Forks, I'm sure a lot of people thought I went the wrong direction with my choice. But, I think there's some similarities to what that was. And like I said, it's not that anymore. When we stopped playing UND, it shifted to South Dakota State. And then at Wyoming, it was Colorado State. But the difference there, I think, and there was some deep-seated emotions, but you're dealing with state to state. And I know in both those cases, those other schools had their own in-state rivalries. And so it just did. I think it was different. You tried to make it as much as you could. And I think the Wyoming CSU rivalry being, an hour away, and there was certainly some raw emotion to that. But so I've been a part of, I think those three different rivalries throughout my career, but I'll trust Bill that this is the biggest one around.
Getting a shot to at least share the Big Sky title, how much is that on the forefront of the team's mind, and what do you think it's taken to get to this point?
Well, what it's taken is us working through some games that have, not looked exactly how we wanted to. We found a way to win. Including last Saturday. I think it's taken a consistent approach, where our guys, each week went back to work, whether that's working on the game plan, being really diligent about taking care of their bodies and getting healthy and, putting ourselves in the best position each week to get the best team out there. So, getting through a conference season undefeated, I think, is really challenging. We're not through it yet, but to position ourselves here with one left is where we wanted to be. And certainly credit to Sacramento State for being in that same position. In a conference makeup like we have, where you don't play everybody, that whole situation we can't do anything about. All we can do is control our side. And no, I think it'd be a big deal. It's been a while here at Montana State. And winning this conference, I think in the world of FCS is a pretty big deal. So, I think it's something our guys really do desire. It's not the end goal, but it's certainly one of the goals that we wanted to accomplish along the way.
How would you describe the season up to this point?
It's hard to believe it's, an 11 game, right, 11th game right here. I think I really appreciated, going back to February. We laid out a vision. Our guys have bought in. Bought in from that first, I would say month period. There's certainly a transition, and we worked through that. Got through spring ball, worked through a little bit more, laid out a more direct plan at the beginning of the summer. Our guys worked really, really hard, and I spoke to that a lot, how, really feel like championships are won in the beginning in the summer, and our guys took that to heart, worked really hard, and, we've had a team that I think understands the importance of getting better each week, and that isn't always reflected on the scoreboard, but, finding a way to win and learning how to win and working through some things are all about, you know, becoming everything you want to become. And, you know, I've been saying, I think for, I don't know, 3-4 weeks that we're positioned well. Well, we're positioned well. We have one game left. It's good to be in this spot, positioned well, and now we got to do something with it.
All good?
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Blackfoot Communications is committed to supporting Bozeman businesses. From intelligent network solutions like SD-WAN to fast and reliable fiber-based services, Blackfoot delivers innovative ways for your business to succeed. Blackfoot Communications. Connect to more.